What's up, guys? Illegal Defense, episode 16, right back with you guys. Gonna get into some games that we previewed last week. Gotta recap some games here. First game that we're gonna get straight into is the Colts versus Vikings game. Historical game, to say the less. I'll be honest, once the lead was at what it was, I kind of tuned out of it. It wasn't something too important. Then I checked back. I was like, okay, let me just check in. But the final score was 39-36. The Vikings made history, biggest comeback in NFL history. What was your takes on this game?
Yeah, crazy game. Similar to you, I kind of saw the score early on and said, "Oh wow, the Colts are destroying the Vikings. This game is over."
Yeah.
I picked the Vikings as the best bet too. Uh,
Hey.
and then sure enough, out of nowhere, the Vikings comes, roaring back into the game and force overtime, and then they win the game in
Yeah.
overtime. So yeah, I mean, look, like you said, biggest comeback in NFL history. Wild game to watch as it came down the stretch there, and just really something for the Vikings that um, obviously they're a pretty good team this year. Their record reflects that. But I don't know how you can act like they can't even act like they would have saw this one coming.
Right.
But congrats to them. They did what it took. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. And I'm sure it's kind of one of those things where you build some momentum with a few points here or there. Then it's kind of within striking distance. All right, if everything goes our way, we could
Then
still
we
win
could
this
win it,
game.
right?
And then sure enough, it's like little by little. As the more you do, the more you feel like the win is yours.
Yeah.
Even though you have to come back from so much, the closer you get,
The more
the more
you
you feel like,
capitalize on
oh,
that.
this is destiny. This was supposed to happen. This is our game to win, even though they're still up by 10 or
Yeah.
they're still up by 7. And then, sure enough, they push it to OT, and it was a situation where looked like maybe it was going to end in a tie, which would have been a disappointing ending to such a great game.
Right.
And the Vikings find their way to capitalize and get the win. They pretty much have control of their division at this point. They are guaranteed to make the playoffs. They're one of the top records in the league, and for the Colts, this has been rough. Jonathan Taylor's probably out for
He's
the
out for
year
the season,
now.
yeah.
Just Saturday's got those guys fighting harder than they were, but it's just still
Not
not
enough.
working out. Now it's come out Matt Ryan's going to be benched again. So for the Colts it's tough, but I mean at this point in the year we're not
Doesn't
expecting
really
much
matter,
out
right?
of them. So I don't know if it puts them in any worse position than they were already in. Um, but yeah, I mean, certainly a thrilling game to watch and one for the history books.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting it's interesting to see how the Colts would be doing, like what they'll be doing moving forward past this season with all the questions from quarterback to head coach. Obviously they have a lot of work to go. So, with that being said, we'll get into our next game against which was the Dolphins versus the Bills. That was another great game during the weekend. The Dolphins lost 29-32, but the Bills are the Dolphins did compete very well against the Bills, and it was a neck and neck game. And I think um it was a very telling game because we saw that that first game wasn't a fluke kind of game. And, Tua did play well. The receivers did play well. Jalen Waddle had a great game. The Bills, obviously, they had a great game as well. But, yeah, I mean, we kind of expected the Bills to come out firing. When we reviewed the game last week, it was more of like, I think they want to get revenge for everything that happened early on in the season. But what was your kind of thoughts with everything that happened?
Yeah, like you said, back and forth game. It was a game that was talked about being moved because of the snow. And I kind of like the way the game played out, where it
Yeah,
started off clean weather, and as the game went on, it kind of started to pick
get
up little
worse,
by
right?
little towards the end of the game was full on snowing. So that's probably the best case scenario for one of those type of games, because when it snowed the whole game, it gets a little messy. It gets to be,
More of a run,
yeah,
just
people running and
yeah,
slipping and falling all over the place, which is kind of cool in one aspect. But when you watch that for a whole game,
it gets boring after a
yeah,
while.
this at least we got to see them air the ball out a little bit, and the offense is being put to their full potential before the snow starts coming, and then it's not like they stopped throwing in the snow. It wasn't super crazy, but it was definitely starting to come down there at the end. But yeah, I mean, like you said, this is the Dolphins got that first win where the Bills coordinators are infamously at this point slamming everything around up there from the box. This game was, like you said, the Dolphins showed that it wasn't a fluke, that they're here, they can play up to the same level the Bills play at, and they can make things interesting. And the Bills need to be careful of a team like the Dolphins in their division now, who have proved that they're more than capable of pushing them to the brink, and they need to be bring their A game when they
Yeah,
want to play the Dolphins,
they
because the
have the
Dolphins,
potential.
yeah, the Dolphins have a lot of potential, especially for a younger, still developing team. And the Bills, one of the better teams in the league, but they're not going to get any easy wins against this Miami team going forward. Um, so yeah, the Dolphins kind of made that clear. They fall a little bit short here, but hard to be disappointed against the Bills team. That being said, it is a very tough loss for the Dolphins. Record wise, it doesn't put them in danger of anything, but they're sliding a little bit now.
Yeah,
And so while I don't think they shouldn't have any problem making the playoffs, we didn't even really have to think about that a week or two ago, where now they're kind of
they're
getting more
getting in that
towards the middle of the
conversation.
pack. So now they really need to be on their A game going forward to make sure they finish strong and finish in the position that they want to. Um, but yeah, Bills, for them, business as usual. They stay on track, one of the better records in the league, and they're in pretty solid position to actually still competing for that first round bye, because
Right.
they at this point you know
The Chiefs are
they're tied with the Chiefs record wise,
right.
but at this point, from what I saw, they are the first overall seed. So, however the tiebreakers work, the Bills have the current tiebreaker over the Chiefs right now.
Right. So the next game that we're gonna go over is the Giants and the Commanders. The Giants took care of business in Washington with a 20-12 win. Um, a lot of good things came from this game. The box score obviously doesn't show the what the game did, but what was some things that you took away from this game in general?
So we knew this was going to be a competitive game. Obviously they played 2 weeks ago, then it ended in a tie. In the Giants home field. This time they go down to Washington, play again. Of course, it ends up being another close game. This game had some controversy at the end with there was a few calls here. So there was the call where the Commanders got the penalty.
Right.
It seems like they were lined up fine. It seems like the receiver checked with the
With the
ref,
ref, yeah.
and then 2 seconds later, the
The
ref is
ref just
throwing the
calls.
flag and calls
That's
a penalty,
insane.
which is savage.
Yeah,
And
that's
my
insane.
guess is that probably happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
It just feels like the NFL refs would do something like that to them. Like,
Right.
it just feels like they're savages that way. So there was that call. And
The
then
PI call.
we even heard the guy in the broadcast. They bring in the ref to kind of put some things into perspective and add a little bit of commentary about what they see from a real ref's point of view. And he said, "Yeah, I wouldn't have thrown that flag. They weren't out of position in the way that should have warranted it in that point of the game."
Yeah.
So there was that, and then on top of that, there was the pass interference play or lack of pass interference play, where the same ref that said he wouldn't have called that other play, says that that's pass interference. If you're gonna call that at any point in the game, you call it there too. But look, I mean, it's said after all these type of situations, it's not that it's fair or anything like that, but if you put yourself in a position to win the game and not you need to put yourself in a position to win the game and not let the
rely on
refs,
yeah.
quote unquote, steal the game from you. Um Look, if you're Washington, tough loss. But if you're the Giants, I don't think you go and you look like, oh yeah, the refs gave us that game. No, you won the game.
No,
You did
there's a
what
lot of
you did
things.
as what the Giants did, what you're supposed to do.
Right.
For the Commanders, both of those calls could have been different, and they might have still not gotten in the end
they
zone.
might have not have
Right?
converted.
Right. So because
points
if
on the board.
they don't get pushed back on the penalty, then they're closer. But they had another try and they might have not converted. It was like maybe they were like 2 yards out or something like that.
Right.
If you get the pass interference, you get the ball right by the end zone. I mean, who's to say that you get in from there? Yeah. Now, once you get, even if you get in the end zone, any of those two instances, now you still have to convert a 2-point conversion.
Yeah,
and that's just to tie it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go to overtime if you get all those things right. So it's hard for, team like the Commanders to say like, oh, they robbed us of the game. I mean, you might have not won the game anyways. Yeah, they might have took some of your chances away, but I mean, I'm sure you could go and ask the Giants coaching staff, and they probably feel like at some of their games they had the calls not go their way, right? Yeah. So that's what I was saying before. You got to put yourself in a position to not let the refs affect the outcome of the game. Play better, and you're not going to be in that position. And some call like that happens, it's whatever. You're up 10 points, and with 2 minutes to go, there's nothing that's going to happen anyways.
So. As far as the Giants though, there's a lot of positive takeaways from this game. Although, like, say that those circumstances could have kind of shifted the way this whole game could have turned out to be. But I mean, one, the goal line defense was stellar. Kayvon Thibodeau was literally rushing the quarterback, then dropped back into coverage and made a play and stopped them from getting into the end zone. That's one thing. I mean,
Saquon back is the other thing.
Yeah, Saquon back.
Saquon at the end of that game was running like
with tenacity,
like rookie Saquon, where he was a beast. Like that's the type of running where if you have a guy like that, you're gonna be able to win games because you're gonna be able to just line up, run right at them, and they can't stop you. Almost like Derrick Henry does in a way, except Saquon is his own. He'll spinning, juking, and moving all around. But yeah, Saquon was a huge part in this game because he allowed them to kind of go on the late drives to really chew the clock down and advance them down the field late in that game.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones made some key throws. There was a 4th and 9 play where he had it seemed like he had the offense in command. Richie James, he was getting on him. I believe it was 4th and 9. There was multiple curl routes, and he fitted into double coverage. I mean, had it been a pick, people would have probably been saying like, oh, he shouldn't have thrown that. But he made a really gutsy throw, and he made a throw that you don't see often in the NFL. And I think it's just telling. Like, it's like we've seen the progress in Daniel Jones throughout the season, and then on top of that, it's like Daniel Jones, he's cut down on his turnovers. The Giants are the second least turnover team in the NFL. So I mean, just a lot to take away from this game and what the Giants were able to do.